Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. I'm looking at an important book for those practising as I do in family law at the family law bar. This is an area which is sometimes missed a little bit when we're looking at financial remedies. It's tax implications on family breakdown. It's an important book written by two people, Sofia Thomas and James Pirrie. Sofia is an accountant and James is a solicitor. The book comes to us from Bloomsbury Professional Law. I think it's a very important book because quite often when we are dealing, say even at the first appointment stage of a dispute resolution hearing, the issue of tax is often ignored, and quite often it's the judge who will be the first one when we're looking at whether we can settle the proceedings or whether it's going to go to a trial, to try and ascertain exactly what the implications for tax are, because quite frankly it can take away the pot of money that you've got very, very quickly and dissipate after they've been fighting each other and not agreeing on anything and spending very large sums of money on legal fees. The end product means that there's a lot less available once everything is settled, and if it's not agreed, imposed by the judge. Let's look at the book first of all. There it is. It's a paperback. There's the spine, and then on the back you see it's a bit of blurb. I borrowed a bit of the blurb for this particular review. The back of the book has a very useful index. It's by paragraph numbering, so that's the style that Bloomsbury use. All references are to paragraph numbers you see at the back. So you should find things pretty easily, pretty quickly. Again, I think it's a very good book. I'm very impressed with the way they've produced the book. There are a series of appendices, 10 in total. If we go to the front of the book, there's the front page. Then you've got some blurb there. There's an important foreword, which is worth reading. I haven't really quoted much from it. Obviously, they start out with the famous quote from Benjamin Franklin, said that in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. Now read on, because that's exactly the position. But they do actually look at the role of HMRC in detail. And as I say, the actual foreword is written by Mr. Justice Mostyn, dated the 6th of May 2020. I'm actually recording this in the summer of 2020. Then there's a preface which starts off with a rather provoking question. Why would they care? Is a post-it stuck on my computer that greets me every morning and underpins all the work I do. Why would they care is a reminder to me to convert the things that I know into what those using me need to know. Now again, that's I think an important point, because tax implications are something that's quite often not considered perhaps as strongly as it might be. Again, it explains in detail. It's worth reading. As I say, it is actually worth reading the preface because it gives you the idea of the mission statement behind the book. Then you've got acknowledgements. Then after that you've got the contents section. And as I say, with the index, the contents section is what you should be able to find things quite easily. For instance, the owner-managed business, that's one I've dealt with. I've got that. The employee income tax is not something I've been particularly concerned with, I have to say. Pensions quite often crop up, of course. Capital gains tax, again, the family home investment, chattels, land taxes, and then you've got the last chapter is we let down our clients by making insufficient use of available experts. Again, the only problem I would say about that is that you've got to get agreement because it's going to cost if you use an expert. But there again, it depends on how much money. I mean, some estates that I've dealt with have been multi-million pound estates and others have been very small. So it really does depend on really what you're arguing about. Then you've got 10 appendices at the back, some of which are very useful because they're drafts of letters and forms of instructions and the use of experts and so forth. Then we get on to case law, and then after the case law, not very much on case law. Then of course some statutes, a few, not very many. Then SIs, of course, a lot of statutory instruments. Then some international stuff, legislation, and then you go straight into chapter 1. You've got overview of the tax system, very helpful I think. Then you've got contents at a glance, which again, that could be expanded a bit perhaps, depending on what you're looking for. But I did think, again, bearing in mind that the tax system is probably going to change with the pandemic that we're just going through at the moment, but certainly I think this is extremely useful for what we have at the moment in 2020. You can see also you've got illustrations as well in the book, which is quite helpful as a guide. And then running through, you can see again with the appendices, there's Appendix 9, and then there are some drafts, Model Form D11 for instance, which is very helpful, forms of instruction and so on. Altogether, I think a very important book. I'm very grateful to Bloomsbury for sending it to us. So what do we say? Well, the title I gave the review is All You Need to Know on Where Taxation Meets the Family Law Financial Remedy, because really that is what we're talking about. We're looking actually at the issues of taxation as they affect the overall pot of money. Now, it may be that I'm making that a bit simplistic as an approach, but I think that's important for people to bear in mind, because as I said at the outset, the concern I do have is that quite often the tax element is often overlooked, and that can have a very substantial effect on what the parties will finally achieve once all of this disputes and all the allegations are set aside and some sort of judgment is made and imposed if not agreed. Anyway, it's a most helpful guide, and as I say, it's called Tax Implications on Family Breakdown. Been written, as I say, by a chartered tax advisor, Sofia Thomas, and a solicitor, James Pirrie. And the aim of this new text, which I welcome, focuses on tax issues which arise upon family breakdown, or in addition what we would call financial remedies proceedings, and I think they will be invaluable to what is seen by some as the forgotten area of financial remedies. And I say that advisedly because I'm not suggesting that you deliberately will ignore it. It's just that you're dealing with a lot of emotion in these cases, and a lot of he said that, she said this, and all this sort of stuff. And then I have to bring them back quite often and say, okay, well, you're arguing about all these matters, but have you thought of the implications, the tax implications, apart from all the other things that are normally brought into it, such as children and property, obviously the marital home, family home and so forth, matrimonial home, whatever you want to call it, which is mainly the biggest asset. Pensions, of course, are important. So, as the family structure is evolving, I think this book is an excellent guide which considers the tax impact on both what is known as the nuclear traditional breakdowns and also alternative families, including the LGBT plus group of families, which are an important area today, and those who are separating with children born outside marriage, which is, I have to say, a large area. And again, it's an area that I have been involved in. The majority of people, it would appear now, do not get married but do have children, and therefore that can have a point. So what we say is that it's a book which will helpfully break down the complex information on the law and practice by providing family law practitioners and of course tax professionals, advisors and practitioners with sections that they can dip into and out of as required, and obviously both the index and the contents section will assist greatly, and there are illustrative examples. It also offers, as I say, you've got the flow charts, which you saw a little bit of when I showed the book, and checklists, so that advisors and practitioners can put forward a comprehensive advice package on financial remedies to their clients. And of course this book does what many of the Bloomsbury Professional Law books do, and that is they make our lives a great deal easier. Because at the end of the day, you've got a huge amount of information, and you quite often will need to find something quite quickly, and this book will help you. It's not the be all and the end all. Obviously you've got things like the red book there and so forth, but it's not. It does actually help. As I say, it's been co-written as a title by Thomas and Pirrie, and it provides answers to the common problems encountered in financial remedy cases. That's their basic mission, and it's done in a way that will assist professionals from each discipline, that is the tax discipline and the legal discipline. And I do think it will be helpful to advisors as well, because I'm including mediators to a certain extent because I have tried to attempt mediation in some areas, not necessarily a formal mediation, but certainly some sort of negotiation prior to seeing whether we can stop the litigation before it gets more expensive. Because going for a full, say, 3-day trial on assets is very expensive for both parties. Let me conclude by saying that we consider that all family law advisors and professionals will find a grounding in tax, will help them spot issues that arise upon family breakdown or financial remedies proceedings. Can I say at the bar we certainly did have a certain amount of advice, and in fact I don't remember doing any exams as such, but we certainly had lectures and so forth on what we call revenue law years ago. Excuse me, but it's still dealing with tax matters, and I'm sure that will be helpful, but it is an area that is not looked at the way it might do. Obviously tax practitioners, I think, will also gain the knowledge they need on the tax implications in family separation to maintain an in-house practice in this very technical and specialised area of law. I think in addition it gives practitioners the ability to engage successfully and to ensure that all the necessary data, information and the paperwork is available to the court should there be a trial, or within the ADR system. Obviously mediation is important, it's specialist for family law as you know, but I think it's important to bear in mind that ADR is very much at the fore now, and I don't know where we're going in the longer term with court hearings, because at the moment most of my hearings during COVID lockdown have been virtual, and I think that's going to continue for the foreseeable future, certainly into 2021, but we will have some return at some stage to live trials, and that's of course when there's no agreement. You've got the Form E and you've got the witness statements, so you've then got a lot of information to look at. Then you think about the tax. The tax element can be quite usefully a mechanism to bring the parties to their senses. Not always, but it does work sometimes. As I've indicated, and you've seen with the book, flowcharts, checklists and a step-by-step chapter breakdown are given, and there's a lot of information and precedent material to engage the Part 25 expert with maximum safety and efficiency. And as I said before about experts, do be careful, because if you're going to start instructing an expert, it's going to cost quite a lot of extra money. The date of publication is cited at the 20th of June 2020, and I'm recording this in July. Let's have one last look at the book. There it is. There's the spine, and then there's the back. Let me just open it in the middle. This is quite useful. This is actually inherited occupation. This is dealing very much with the way the main home is treated as an inherited ownership provision, for instance. That's the detail you've got. You've got illustrations which I've indicated. You can see the blocked out bits, which are very helpful. There's the various other ones. Obviously some of these will be helpful to you. It depends on the complexity of the case you've got. Family home on divorce. Again, this is where they are married, but as I've indicated, you do have cohabiting couples, and again you've got issues here on income tax there, and then you've also got capital gains tax, CGT, and it does look very much at transfers outside the tax year of separation. Again, you have to think of all of these matters, because the cases I have are not dealt with immediately. They will last several years, quite often at least. I've had one that's been going on for about 4 years, and it gives you an idea. They won't settle, so eventually we'll get to a trial. I'd like to thank Sophia and James very much indeed, and of course Bloomsbury, for the production. As I've indicated, our lives are made a lot easier by these books, so a big thank you to everybody. Bye bye.